Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins on a Finnish mountaintop with an excavation team drilling deep into its core. The supervisor Brian informs his American financier that they've discovered sawdust 65 feet beneath the surface. This pleases Riley, who says that sawdust was once used to prevent ice from melting and believes that the entire mountain is one giant icebox. He encourages the workers to keep excavating, but also that they be on their best behavior, which makes Brian laugh as he finds his little rule card childish. Riley lets it be known that he's deadly serious, that the rules are to be followed, and particularly now that it's around Christmas time. Outside, two Finnish boys, Pietari and his best friend Juuso, are sneaking around the mine site hoping to see some explosions. They watch as Riley's handed another drilling sample, confirming his suspicions that the mountain is a giant burial mound. He claims that inside is a discovery more extraordinary than the pyramids of Egypt themselves, and tells his team they have a grave that needs robbing. Once finished watching the excavation, Pietari and Juuso run back down the mountain and through a hole they've cut in the fence. Pietari asks if this means that Santa Claus is really dead and that's who the Americans have located, but Juuso just mocks him for still believing Santa exists. Deciding to do his own research, Pietari reads numerous books depicting Saint Nick as an evil creature with horns that walks barefoot in the snow. Some legends paint him as a punisher of children who would whip the naughty ones before boiling them in a cauldron. On the 23rd of December, Pietari's father Rauno builds a spike pit in the backyard and uses a pig's head to bait in any predators. He wakes up Pietari, who's fallen asleep while on watch for Santa and who notices fresh footprints on the shed roof outside his window. Deducing that it wasn't his father and instead must have been Santa spying on him, Pietari runs to the shed to inform Rauno, but he's busy preparing dinner. He tells Pete to get dressed as they have a special Christmas tradition to attend, then both take the snowmobile to a nearby roundup area. Several other villagers who are planning on capturing the nearby reindeer herd inside an electrified fence are already waiting. Pietari's given his gun to go play with his friend before they wait with local hunter Piiparinen for the reindeer's arrival. To their surprise, only two small reindeer come walking over the hill, so the hunters take the boys and ride towards their general direction. They find their entire livelihood dead at the foot of the mountain and assume that wolves are at fault as they've been a problem in the area. Leaving the boys there and riding up ahead to the burial mound, they find Juuso's father Aimo at the hole in the surrounding fence. Thinking they're to blame for letting wolves inside, Juuso tells Pietari not to say anything as it cost their parents over $80,000 in product. Their parents think the American miners must be to blame as their work with dynamite is driving the wolves down from the mountains. Holding them accountable, Rauno shoots off the lock before they all head up to the mining site to get paid what they're owed. They get to the top by nightfall but find the entire place is deserted and the offices seem like they've been abandoned for days. Inside, Pietari finds an excavation photo of a large block of ice that the miners found, while the rest locate a gigantic crater in the center of the mountain. Needing to make the money back, the group go to Rauno's place to come up with a plan, while Pietari shows the picture to Juuso. He tells him the story from one of his books in which Santa was a demon-like creature preying on children, so a local tribe froze him in a lake. They then dug up the ice and buried it beneath a giant pile of rocks, which Pietari thinks is the mountain that was being excavated. Thinking that his friend's just overreacting, Juuso laughs and just warns Pietari again not to say anything about the wolves and the fence. At the dinner table, the terrified child asks his father what Rauno would do if he ever disappeared and if he thinks he's been a good boy this year. The widowed man just tells his son that all good kids are in bed at this time and stays up to cry while Pietari falls asleep on watch again. At the local airport, the drill miner Brian's on the line with Riley about needing to end their whole operation as their discovery still has a pulse. He's told to just follow those rules on the card and everything will be okay, but the entire disobedient crew vanishes at the arrival of a barefoot man. The following morning, Pietari goes outside to chuck a piss but shouts when he notices that the trap has been activated. The pair find the bloody body of a human inside, so Rauno ushers his son into the house for breakfast while he thinks of his next move. He then orders Pietari not to leave the house and calls Piiparinen to help carry the body into the shed while his son watches from his window. With it still being illegal to have spike traps in these parts, Rauno's first thought's to cut the corpse into pieces and dispose of it. They find Brian's license inside the old man's jacket, so they assume he's an American, but when trying to remove an arm he suddenly pulls away. Meanwhile, Pietari leaves the house to find a potato sack inside the trap containing a straw doll that the old man was going to use to replace him. He then tries to spy on his dad, but the strange man begins to smell the child nearby, alerting Rauno to his son's presence. Pietari runs away, so leaving his friend to watch over the injured man, Rauno gives chase in his truck hoping to calm his son down. He sees the sheriff picking him up during one of his home callouts, so Rauno follows them down the street to Aimo's property. The potato farmers had all of his sacks stolen during the night, but the thieves left all the product and took his wife's hairdryer instead. The sheriff says that others have also been reporting heating elements like their ovens being taken from their houses last night. He wants to speak with Rauno, so Pietari goes into the house to play with his friend but just finds another straw dummy in his bed. Having been saved himself by his father's trap, Pietari takes it to show the adults, but they just assume that Juuso went out to go play. When the police finally leave, Rauno has Aimo accompany him home since he knows English and could translate the old man, assuming that he's American. Meanwhile, Piiparinen learns that the man has a taste for gingerbread, but he gets too close and gets a chunk bitten out of his ear. The others return to see the damage done, but Aimo's sure that it's probably just some cultural barrier and English speakers must just bite ears. They find the old man huddled up to the lights for warmth, but no matter how they try to get his attention, he just doesn't respond. Pietari goes through his friends list and calls all of their families to learn that he's the only one that hasn't been kidnapped. He goes to the shed and admits to cutting the fence with Juuso, which he believes is the reason for Santa wanting to punish him. They both go inside, causing the old man to perk up, and all the adults notice that it's Pietari he's been targeting. It's now when he reveals that the old man's Santa Claus, who was dug up from beneath the mountain, but the adults don't believe him. Noticing the abnormal look in his eyes, they decide to chain him up for good measure and contemplate what to do next. The old man also had Brian's radio inside his coat, and it finally goes off with Riley on the other end asking if Santa's ready to be collected. Thinking that maybe his son's telling the truth after all, Rauno arranges to sell the old man to Riley, assuming that Santa can at least cover their losses. They dress him in Piiparinen's Santa costume and travel to a hangar where Aimo finds his missing hairdryer lying on the runway. Riley shows up in his helicopter, so the locals retrieve the hostage and demand payment of 85 grand, assuming that they captured Santa. It gets pointed out by Riley that the old man's not Saint Nick but just one of his helpers who has been summoned to their master. Suddenly the lights turn off and the helicopter pilot's dragged away before dozens of old men begin to surround the runway. Riley gets hit in the back of the head with a pickaxe and killed, so the locals fire shots at the helpers while chasing Pietari into the nearby hangar. They find inside a giant block of ice containing the real Santa Claus creature with 2 large horns and piercing yellow eyes. The elves have been using all of the town's heaters to melt the ice quicker and surrounded their master with children in potato sacks. As Aimo releases his son, Piiparinen and Rauno barricade the entrance while Pietari comes up with a plan, but still nobody will listen to him. He silences them with his gun before explaining how the helpers are never going to leave them alone so long as Santa exists. Intending to use the miners' explosives to blow Father Christmas to hell, they send Piiparinen to retrieve the helicopter by distracting the elves with gingerbread. Since they're most likely attracted to the children, he hovers over a hole in the hangar while the potato sacks are put into a large net. Pietari tells his dad good luck with his own mission before being extracted along with the children to lure the helpers away from the airport. The helpers give chase like a horde of zombies while the parents drill into the ice and cover Santa with hundreds of sticks of dynamite. Before they leave, the pair cut off the creature's horns, as they've got to be worth something, and load them up on the back of the truck. Figuring it out as he goes along, Pietari tells Piiparinen to fly the helicopter towards the reindeer trap, hoping to capture the helpers inside. When they reach it, they find the gates closed, so Pietari leaps from the helicopter and climbs down, intending to sacrifice himself. He activates the trap fence and clears the entry before telling Pi to let his father know what he did and going radio silent. Preparing for the army of shriveled helpers to swarm him, Rauno detonates the dynamite, blowing Santa and the hangar to smithereens. The creature's death cuts the helpers off like a hive mind, and they all begin just standing around clueless since they're out of a job. Piiparinen takes the children home to their families while Pietari spends all night herding the men into the cage and counting them. He tells his dad that they have 198 helpers, which gives the locals the very illegal idea to sell them to make millions. They're cleaned and groomed before the enslaved men are reconditioned into the department store Santa Clauses. When they're pleased with a Santa's development, they get put into large crates to be shipped off as a rare export. And the movie ends.